Today we'll be working on a replacement of hinges for a Chromebook J5 from CTL. I didn't see anything on YouTube, and so I am going to make this video. As you can see, the hinge there is not quite right like the other ones. It doesn't actually close the lid anymore. It pounces open. So the first thing we need to do is remove the battery, which is done by 2 screws. And you lift it up. And then there's underneath the feet screws as well. So altogether there's 8 screws in the back side of the Chromebook. There are 2 tiny ones, and if you have the correct screwdriver, it is a huge help. I got one from Lowe's and it's a hardened steel with a little magnet on it to help slightly magnetic. It's a big help to have that magnetic. In fact, I wish it was stronger. I may have to put a good strong magnet on it to make it strengthen it a little bit more. And as you can see in the center of the battery area, there's 2. You don't actually have to take out that plastic, but it helps if you flip that lip over the prongs. So when you take the top off, it doesn't hook. Now I start from the back corner of the Chromebook to get the lid open. You have to have a very fine screwdriver or some other device to get in there. I'm not sure if I'm using the correct device, but it's a very fine flat screwdriver. And I start on that side of the hinge with the USB on that side, because the other side has audio, and the audio sticks out, and so you can't really clip, or you can't begin on that side. You have to end on that side and start on that side when you put it back on. So slowly as you get the also the reason I start on the back side is if you do make a little ding in the plastic, it's better to have it on the back than on the front. So once it starts going, it's fairly easy. Just slowly, carefully maneuver. As you can see, I'm moving the screwdriver through till it gets to a spot where you feel the clip is, and then you get in there and you just pry it, just gently, very gently, just pry it. Now this is looks like I'm doing pretty quick here, but actually I've sped up the video by almost 2 times, so you can see I was actually going quite slow. And those are the things that stick out that cause it so you can't start on that side. There's also one screw that got stuck because there is a little bit of a grounding thing there, so I left the screw in. So now we have to remove all the electronic cables that are connected. There's 2 on the right side, and there's 2 on the left as well. They're held down by tape, and later on when I put it back together, I admit I screwed up by putting it in the wrong order, and so the cables are kind of overlapping badly, and so that caused a little bit of a issue there. They peel the tape back carefully. That's one of the more tricky parts, because I don't like using a tool on near the motherboard, but sometimes it's the only way to get to the tape. Also right here is where I zoomed in. That's a good time actually to take a picture of what you're taking apart before you start taking it apart. I usually use my camera phone just to see where everything is later on, like, oh, did I connect? Where does the blue go? Where's the white go? Where does the black go? So it's always good to take pictures with your camera phone before you start disassembling things, just in case you have something to reference. That one was difficult because the tape actually had gotten underneath the cable and it was very difficult to get it loose. But like I said, there's that one and there's one next to it. So there's 2 on that side, and actually 3 on the right, 2 on the left. Now you take the screws out of the hinge, and the whole thing should come off. Careful. There it goes. It's completely free. So now, to get the other side of the hinge off, you actually have to move the glass up. The glass will be in the way of your hinge. The first thing you have to do is underneath the 2 little round dots, you got to take the dots off, which are not actually that hard. The tricky part is not to lose them or get them stuck somewhere else. And then you take the 2 screws out, and then you just start to pry from one side like that, and carefully, because it's very thin plastic, carefully go along and get it loose. Now in the middle there is 2 screws holding well, some important stuff down. So those have to, they're actually what's holding the glass in place. The other screws are all just the hinges. You only see one hinge at this time. So you take those 2 center screws out, and the glass slides down. It's like a little, like a hidden rail almost in there. So it has to slide down, and you do not want to pull the glass away. You just want to slide it down, get it free, and lift it slightly up to expose the hinges, because there are other connections on there and you don't want to tear anything or mess anything up. I had to use a screwdriver to get it to get started, and turns out by holding it against your stomach it actually worked pretty good, sliding it loose finally. As you notice, I'm not using any gloves, which you would think would be good, but there's so many little spots where you need to have your fingernails or just the control and feel of your fingers, because the screws are so small. Of course, I have quite large hands, but this is a clip that holds the wires in place inside the hinge. If you got to put it exactly right back in there, it is a major pain. So that's another reason not to move the glass too much, which I kind of did here mistakenly, because that way it moves the wiring. If you don't want to move that wiring too much. You just want to expose the hinge screws and keep kind of everything in place, so when you put it back together, you don't have to struggle too much. So there is a right and there is a left. They have markings where the screws go, and makes it quite simplistic to put together. Brand new ones, of course, have plastic on them. It's always good to keep your hinges separate, just so you don't by accident put the old ones back on. So here's the part where you have to stuff the wiring into that little grommet, into the hinge. And screw it all together. Do the same on this side. Had some difficulty getting the wiring straightened out. Though not as much as I did the very first one I did. That took forever, because it kind of fell apart. I didn't even see what happened or what was going on. And since there's writing on the hinges, it makes it a little simpler to figure out which side goes up and which side goes down, which is always handy. So now comes the tricky part. Getting that glass back in. You think it'd be easy, but it always wants to pop up. So again, I actually ended up using, I believe it was my belly, to kind of hold it while pushing it on the other side to get it to fit. It took me quite a while to get this. I actually cut out some of the video because it was taking too long. So once you get that, you put the screws back in, and that portion is done. Now you put the cover back over it, clip it in place, which is actually quite simple. Put the 2 screws in, could put the grommets on at the same time. I tend to do that last for some reason. Just in case I have to take it apart again, I don't have to remove those grommets. Then get the other part, flatten out the hinges. And as you see, you have to actually flip it over for it to be the right direction. So it's glass down to get this portion into place. And once again, it's just 3 screws putting it back together and connecting all the wiring and with the tape. This is again where it's useful to have that camera picture if you've forgotten where some of the wiring goes or how it fits. It's pretty intuitive. It's pretty straightforward, obviously, because of the way the wiring is. But here there was on the right side the video cable, the black one, was actually upside down, and but you could tell it was upside down because of the way the cable had been folded on itself. Because you know it was flat, so it's like, gotta flip it over to get it properly the way it should be. So little things like that, when you notice it, you're like, okay. So everything should be connected. And now we put on the back, and we start on the side where the audio connection is. Again, this is not always so easy. Sometimes it pops loose as you're putting it back on. Major pain in the butt. But I suppose once you get good at it, you can do it many times. Snap, snap, snap. Put the 2 screws on, put the 8 other screws on, flip that underneath the power connectors. Again, this is handy to have a magnetic screwdriver. It makes things easier. I tend not to use powered screwdrivers, especially on laptops, because you can easily strip the screws. You don't want to over torque things either. Put the grommets back on, and then clean the glass with a special glass cleaner paper that I got for lenses for cameras. Turns out you can get a whole box of them from Amazon for like $5-6, a couple hundred of them. Basically towelettes, kind of like from KFC. It worked really well. Now you power it on, and lo and behold, guess what? It doesn't power on. Why does not? Well, that's because for some reason, at least I've had it every time I've worked on one of these, you have to put in the power cord and then it will turn on. Also, it turns out this one was quite low powered anyways. But even after that, it took a few seconds of holding the power button for it to finally flash on. And then it flashed right off again for some reason. Oh, yeah, I had to close the lid. I don't know if that's something you do, but it seemed to work. Hold the power button. There it goes. Tried it again. Press it a few times. And on it comes. I suppose there's a special sequence for turning it back on. I just don't know what it is. And it comes up, and as you can see in the bottom right corner, there is a very low power. It was flashing red, or was red colored. Can't really see it in the picture here, but it was very low. So anyways, that's how you do it. I hope this video has been useful. Thank you for watching.